Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news. And have we got a show for you tonight? We've got interviews from Bruno, we've got Mainoo exposed, we've got Man United going in for Ruben Neves, we've got Man United going all out for Semenyo. So much to react to. What a show it was with Ben Jacobs this afternoon, by the way. Oh my God, the amount of drops there. I tell you what, it was like watching Mike Tyson. It was incredible. Unbelievable stuff. But I've got to just say before I start the show, because we have got so much to get into tonight, and I'm sure you've got a lot you want to say as well. Not only that, Josh Squash1 has just gifted 20 memberships. Merry Christmas. What a legend he is. Little bit late because I'm not happy. It might be an after show topic, but I'm not happy. Let's just say I'm in a WhatsApp group with people I used to go to school with, and they dropped in a link about the top 13 celebrities from Nottingham. Now, I was born in Nottingham, and I'm not on that list. And I'm not a narcissist. You know, I don't do this for fame or fortune. You know, I'm not a role model. I don't say any of that shit. But I'm telling you what, Christmas is cancelled. No presents for anyone. I hate fucking Christmas. It's ruined it. I'm 11 minutes late, and I'm bloody fuming. You know, I've just been down for a few Christmas drinks and I got sent that. And they're all doing laughing emojis. Some of the names on that list. Absolute joke. And I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But you're having a fucking laugh if I'm not in the top 10. Anyway, let's get on with it. Robin Hood wasn't even in it. That's the thing. If Robin Hood had been there, I'll deal with that. You know, he did some good stuff. Want Robin Hood? Sue Pollard and Stuart Broad. Fuck off. Anyway, let's go into the show. I'll tell you the list later, but I'm feeling, you know, irritated, but up for this show. Hopefully you can bring me back down. I've been storming around my garden for the last 10 minutes, kicking the Christmas tree. You know, it's a mess. But anyway, let's go. So, look, so much to get into the show tonight. Interestingly, first of all, Ruben Neves and Semenyo are the two places I want to start. We've had this interview from Bruno. Ben Jacobs saying that Mainoo was behind the T-shirt as well. He knew about it and he was backing it. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I mean, look, I've got to put my hands up and say, I was like, it's not that deep. It doesn't really matter. If he's behind that, I mean, is it as bad as Garnacho wearing a Villa shirt? No, but it's bloody shit. It's a really shady move, that. It is, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, look, we've got a couple of stories coming in. What a mess. I mean, I think it says all out on the thumbnail. You could have just gone with what a mess. I mean, we've got to beat Villa. I normally do a live preview of Villa, but we're doing it at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, so because there's too much to talk about tonight to do a Villa preview. But I nearly did go with what a mess, because if we don't beat Villa on Sunday, it's not going to be a very Merry Christmas, is it? But let's start off with this story from The Telegraph and James Ducker. So he's basically saying that Manchester United will go all out to sign Semenyo in January and hope the uncertainty over Pep Guardiola's future could strengthen their hand. Now, it was interesting what Ben Jacobs said, because he's the guy, he's the journalist on this that led on Semenyo a few weeks ago. So everyone else is joining the party now. But he said today on the United Stand exclusively that Man United aren't necessarily the favourites in this race. They will hope that Semenyo makes the decision early on where he wants to go, and that will give whoever he makes the decision the upper hand. So there will be hope that he chooses Man United, and then we can do the deal. But look, we're going to go all out for it. I would have said that last night. I think the minute Fabrizio Romano said we've been in talks, I think that's very obvious that we are in, and Ben Jacobs had obviously said it as well. So James Ducker in The Telegraph saying that Man United are going to go all out for Semenyo is interesting tonight. I think that verifies what some of us would have thought anyway. The question is going to be, will he choose Manchester United? And I think from what Ben Jacobs said this afternoon, it may not be as straightforward as we would hope. But as I said this morning, from somebody I was speaking to, you know, they were like confident that they've done a lot. Basically, they've done all they can do. You've had Amorim speaking to him on Monday, speaking publicly. The club are making all the right moves. But you know, you do go back to the question of, should you be spending another £60 million on an attacker when the midfield needs real investment? And I think that will always be the big question. So look, it's going to be very interesting. I'm not going to dwell on the Semenyo deal because I've not heard any of you say anything bad about him. And I'm on board with that. Very exciting player, very welcome at Man United. But the question is it the right deal to do? when you need midfielders? I suppose that's a very valid question. But the second part to the big story tonight is that this is from Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail. Ruben Neves is keen on a return to the Premier League and has emerged as an option for Man United in January. Al Hilal are prepared to let him go for around £20 million. Now, I'm going to just do a poll here. What are your thoughts on this? Would you sign Ruben Neves? Because I think there is something really interesting. I mean, look, he is a player that we have been linked to before. You know, this is not a new story. Like, he's been linked to us for many years before he went to Saudi. He's also Portuguese, and we know that Ruben Amorim loves Portuguese players. He's also 28, and he'll be 29 in March. So I'm sort of like, I'm not totally dismissive of this deal, because if we did go for Neves, I would, you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of opening this up now, but if Man United signed Ruben Neves, how would you feel about it? Because I haven't really thought about it. I'm sort of reacting to it live with you, which I think is always best. And if you compare him to Conor Gallagher's 25. Ruben Neves is 28, and he'll be 29 in March. So if you go for Conor Gallagher, you can understand, well, he's another 25-year-old, just like Cunha, just like Mbeumo, just like Semenyo. So you can go, oh, like, you know, it fits in with the policy. If you sign Ruben Neves, he is 28 going 29. That breaks the Ineos theory of not going for anybody over 26. So there's part of me going, I don't mind this deal. I actually don't mind it, because it means we're not being rigid on price and age. If we don't sign Neves, then we're not buying a player over 26 again. So I'm like, you know what? I don't mind this deal at all. I mean, I'd take it over nothing. Whether I'd take him over Conor Gallagher, that's a conversation. But I don't mind this deal. Not even look, I have to be consistent, right? I said on one day this week that if Ruben Amorim gets 2 half-decent midfielders into that team, I think he will survive. I think we will do well. I think we will become a good team. But he needs to be responsible for that. I can't back Amorim and say he's the guy until he does what it's bloody obvious we need to do. So I'm not Amorim out, but I'm not saying he's the guy until he gets 2 decent midfielders in. Because if he keeps playing Bruno in the midfield, he ain't the guy. So Ruben Neves would be, what did I say the other day? Sanderberg and James Garner, and we'll be a better team. I ain't going to sit here and say Ruben Neves is going to be a bad signing, because Ruben Neves is a decent midfielder. So Ruben Neves into our midfield, I'm okay with that. He's a decent midfielder. I think we'll be a better team for it. It'll give us more balance, more composure. So not against it. And also, I think the interesting thing would be that he's 29 going to be 29, 28 going to be 29. So I'm not opposed to this deal for 2 reasons. One, I think he's a decent player. I don't think he's a world beater. I don't think he's a great midfielder. I don't think Liverpool or Arsenal or Man City would want him in a million years. But he's definitely better than the shit we've got. And also, he's over 26. So if United go and buy a player that's 28, I'm actually rubbing my hands together, because I'm going, good. We actually do need to be buying players over 26 sometimes. So I don't mind this. I don't mind this at all. I sort of thought I might be against it. But if I'm against it, I'm a hypocrite, because I think we've got to start signing players over 26. And also, he's a decent midfielder. And I've said we need 2 decent midfielders and we'll be a better team. So, look, I know there's a worldie out there, and whether it's going to be Anderson or Wharton or Baleba, that's for the summer. But for January, I ain't going to moan about that. We desperately need midfielders. And the Conor Gallaghers and the Ruben Neveses of this world are what's obtainable. So I don't mind. I've got no problem with it. And as Narinja says, Neves has experience and has played with Bruno. So, you know, again, and he's Portuguese. So I ain't against it. But you know what's going to be very interesting on that is whether United say no because he's over 26, in which case I think that's terrible. Salman says, and I thought Semenyu's not on the menu. Well, he wasn't on the menu in the summer, mate. Maybe you need to listen. Emily Derry, Neves for 20 million. Don't start on me tonight, mate. I'm fucking fuming that I'm not in the top 13 celebrities from Nottingham. So don't start shit tonight because I will bite on it. I won't bite on it, but I will bury you in shit. And not my shit, horse shit. Neves for 20 million. He has performed in the Premier League and he wouldn't eat into too much budget for the summer and a little bit of experience if both Bruno and Casemiro go, says Emily. I think Emily's on the same page as me on this. The only thing I would say is what's his wage? What's his wage? Is that something we need to worry about? What is his wage in Saudi? I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. So interesting. Just in the live chat, Kim says Ben Jacobs said United will sign 2 midfielders in January summer, regardless of signing Semenyo or not. I read that, and I'm glad you reminded me of that. I did read that, but I don't want to buy 2 midfielders in the summer and Semenyo now. I want at least, look, we can buy Semenyo, brilliant, but I want at least 1 midfielder in January. I'm not putting up with Semenyo now and 2 midfielders in the summer bullshit. I need at least 1 midfielder now. Really. Mike JW says, let's be honest, we desperately need a midfielder more than any other position, but at 20 million for Neves, that's a decent price. I'd take Neves, I'd take Conor Gallagher, I don't care who. And Conor Gallagher is definitely still in the race. Tom Grant says, evening Mark, thanks for your super chat, Tom. He says, apparently Semenyo supports Arsenal. If they were in the race, he'd go to them. This is giving me Hazard vibes. Let's hope it's us, says Tom. There seems to be a lot of clubs in for him as well. Where would I go if I was Semenyo? I made that question up. Man United. I'd sign for Man United over Man City. If Man City were offering me 300 grand a week and Man United were offering me 150 grand a week, I'd go to Man United. Because it's my dream. But if I was Semenyo and I wasn't a Man United fan, Liverpool. I think Liverpool's the best place for him. Yeah, I'd go. If it's between Liverpool, Spurs, Man United and Man City, I'd go Liverpool, Man United, City, Spurs. I don't think City's a great place to go at the moment. Pep might be going if you watch That's Football. And he's not great with wingers either. If we buy a midfielder, who are we dropping, says Mark. I mean, come on. It's like saying, if you buy me a new Ferrari, which car are you going to get rid of? The fucking Astra or the bloody Skoda? I don't give a shit. I've got a Ferrari, you know? We need serious midfielders that scare... sorry, this is an idiot in the chat. Rob, MUFC, it's a shame you're getting blocked, but bye. We need serious midfielders that scare other teams, not Ruben Neves' brother. Says Trader. Does anyone know he was at Saudi? Says Mrs. Stone. So 2 of our midfielders don't want to be here, says Mrs. Stone. Who are the 2 midfielders? Mark, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Just wanted to say thanks for all the content. I'm in the top 0.3% of viewers, says J. Dot. Well, you're a legend, mate. I know that name. Mike JW says, can we have a big shout out to you and the amazing community we have here? All legends, all amazing, best footballing community ever. Well, we've always been that, mate, and thanks for being a part of it. Semenyo would be great because he can do long throws, says Bout. Look, I've got to get through a lot tonight, and I intend to get through a lot tonight. So we've started on the Semenyo story. We've done the Ruben Neves story as well. Look, this would be ridiculously cowardly if I didn't touch on this. You know, we did a whole show on it when it broke. So I have to talk about this. I am going to talk about Bruno's interview with Rio as well. Propaganda, boring. I nearly fell asleep. But there was one interesting quote I wanted to talk about. However, Ben Jacobs on the show this afternoon basically said that Mainoo was aware of his brother's T-shirt stunt and was behind it, in the sense that he knew about it and he supported it. Now, Mainoo can come out and say that Ben Jacobs is lying. I don't think he's going to. Let me just say that. When I did the video, whatever day it was, and I said, I don't think it's that deep, I don't think it's really that much of a deal, and you lot went mad, and then on the evening I apologised and went, look, the weight of feeling against this, I think I might have misread the room, and I'll always put my hands up when I'm wrong. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect this. So, look, this is another strand to the story. I don't want to be talking about it. I think Mainoo came on Monday night and made us better. I really do. But to be aware of the T-shirt thing and behind the T-shirt thing, whether you support it or whether you were part of it, I think about Belfast and Rashford. I think about some of the treatment Bruno's had, Pogba's had, Garnacho's had. I just think you've got to say what I'm about to say and say that is incredibly poor reading of the room. And at some point, these players have got to remove their head from their arse and stop concocting stupid things like this that they think the fans are going to go, yeah, I'm behind that. Look, I'm 100% behind Mainoo getting more to game time. I'm 100% behind Mainoo feeling that Amorim hasn't given him a chance when others have been shit. 100% behind that. But when you bring the club into that sort of, a situation, and you think you're going to get the backing of the fans from that, it's ridiculously misguided. Like I said the other day, you've got Paul Scholes, a legend, saying, why is Mainoo not playing? It's not good enough. That's it. You sit back, you watch bloody Home Alone, and you go, Merry Christmas. You don't have a word with your brother and say, let's get a T-shirt out with free Mainoo on it. It's incredibly immature. It's incredibly short-sighted. And yet again, I personally am looking at this club and going, what kind of a circus is it? Like, what type of mentality do we... Because, as a fan base, I think we get it. We get the standards, we get where we need to be, we're frustrated. But you wonder what type of people we've got in that dressing room, that these are the... I want these players to get hold of the ball and conduct the midfield. And their decision-making is like that. And you think, you know what? Maybe you're not what we need. That's what I think after this week. You're confusing me because I see a talented player there that I think has behaved really, really well, who deserves more minutes. And then I see something like this and I go, you actually thought it was a good idea for your brother to walk down in front of 75,000 people and wear a T-shirt with your name on it saying, come on, we're Manchester United. The class of 92, the Busby Babes, Sir Matt Busby, George Best, Dennis Law, Sir Alex Ferguson, and you think it's a good idea to put a fucking T-shirt and make it about you because you're not getting game time. For fuck's sake, mate. Screw your heads on. You're not that important. You're not. I'm sorry, you're not. I want you to play and I want you to be given the opportunities, but that's a liberty. That's a fucking piss take. And so many players keep making this mistake that they think the fans are going to back them over the club. This is not about the Glazers. It's not about Amorim. It's not about Sir Jim. It's about what Man United is to all of us. And no fan is going to back fucking propaganda like that over what Man United is. And it's incredibly disappointing. And look, I know Ben Jacobs. I don't think he would say something that serious publicly unless he had good information. And I think it's just so disappointing again. And I feel mugged off. You know what? I feel this is 3 times now I feel mugged off. Rashford, I defended over Belfast and he did it. Garnacho, I thought he was a fantastic player and I put my neck on the line. I said he's got a great ceiling. He's going to be brilliant. And he fucked it. And then... Mainoo, again, backed him, stuck with him, and he's doing stupid stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? Educate yourself on why we love Man United and don't do stuff like that. And look, he is only a kid. He's only 20 years of age. But who have you got around you, mate? Who's advising you? Like, you had Paul Scholes saying you need to be playing. And everyone was like, yeah, he's right. He's right. He's right. You had it. You had everybody behind you. And then you do a T-shirt stunt and fucking ruin it. And I just think, I can't believe it. It's like I said the other day. It's like having bloody Martin Scorsese saying he's a great actor. I can't believe he's not getting any films. He's absolutely amazing. He's brilliant. He's just so good. You know, he's amazing. And then, you know, you don't need anyone else to say anything. And then you got Anton Dek saying he's great. You know, you don't need bloody Anton Dek. You've got Scorsese. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, look, I've said my bit on that. We've got other stuff. Fergie Way says, I think that it was just clout chasing. It's this generation. Look, I can't talk about that. You know, I don't know. I'm not. You know, my generation's a bit different, of course. Maybe it is. J Dot's just gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much. You're a legend. I'm sorry, but Keno on Mainoo is spot on, by the way, says Mario. Well, Roy Keane basically said that his brother was an idiot and, you know, you wouldn't be very happy about it. But if he's part of it, what does that make? Mainoo an idiot? I mean, come on. Confirm that Cobby had anything to do with the shirt, says Black. We've just been talking about that. Saz says, look, I'd love Mainoo to come out and say he knew nothing about it. I'd love that to happen. But in the absence of that, you know, you've got to listen to what people are saying. Like Wayne says, I was willing to give Mainoo a chance to prove himself, but when are we going to get rid of the entitled, spoiled young players that get rid of me? Look, I mean, the interesting thing is, it's very, very disappointing. Let's hope he learns from it. I'd still start him against Villa. I mean, would you drop him against Villa? We haven't got Casemiro. We haven't got a very good midfield. I'm still picking him against Villa. But you know, I'm not saying kick him out the club or drop him. It's a fucking t-shirt at the end of the day. But I'm not happy about it. And I think it puts a mark against him that, you know, that type of behaviour isn't the behaviour type that I want at United. And it's a big red flag. I want him to play on the weekend and I want him to do well and I want him to learn from it and go, you know, I'm not doing something stupid like that again. But John says he can't play. He has to be dropped. Well, you know, that's... It could be the end, couldn't it? I'm kind of mad at Amorim for the Mainoo situation, says Johns. The problem is not always player power, but also coach bias, like Amorim always picks Bruno. Bruno complains the team does not say anything. It's hypocrisy. But you know what, John? If we hadn't had the T-shirt stunt, I absolutely agree with you. You know, I do agree with you. He should have been given more opportunities. We were a better team when he came on Monday, but you also don't want the... you don't want this sort of shit. You really don't. Mojo says that Neves' wages are around 270 grand a week. Well, he'd have to take a pay cut of at least 100. I wouldn't be paying Ruben Neves anything over 170. Not at 29. Short-tempered gamer says, it's a dumb question, but where are we playing Semenyo? Well, this is the thing. You can play him left wing back. You can play him right wing, left wing. You can play him as a 10. You can probably play him as a striker as well. Fergie Way says, do we really want 2 Rubens? And Tyler says, are you worried we won't spend in January if we don't get Semenyo, Mark? Merry Christmas to you and your family. I'm worried that we sign Semenyo and we don't buy a midfielder. That's what I'm worried about. We've clearly got 60 million. I've been saying this since the summer when we went for Baleba, but I'd be worried if we only bought Semenyo. So is Neves a replacement for Casemiro or Bruno, says Mrs. Stan? Oh, 100%. It'll be Bruno ain't getting dropped out of that midfield. That's never going to happen. Rohit says, I'll buy Neves and Semenyo. I don't want another Sadio Mane story, says Rohit. And Not Loopsy has gifted 5 memberships. You're a legend, mate. Really, really appreciate that. Andre says, I just don't see how without Ahmad and Mbeumo we will transform into a 4-3-3. If you think about it, we're lacking our best wingers on the right and we have weaknesses on the left. We don't really have enough wingers, says Andre. And Shahin says, to be fair to Mainoo, it's very difficult to throw his brother under the bus, whether Cobby had anything to do with the T-shirt or not. Yeah, but that's what Ben Jacobs is saying. He said he knew about it and he was behind it. So, you know. I don't think Mainoo would get in the under-21 squad, says Ross Stephen. And Munter says, I think it's more on Amorim to be more involved in player engagement. The freezing out when he doesn't want someone in the team is quite toxic, in my opinion. And Ramazan says, do you think Mainoo will start or get game time after the T-shirt? Do you think he should still start? It's a great question. I sort of answered it already. Look, I thought we were better with him in the team on Monday. There was more balance. There was more possession. I think Aston Villa is going to be a really difficult game. And if we're going to drop Mainoo for the T-shirt stunt, we've got no Casemiro. So you'd have to play Agate and Bruno. I mean, you can still pick him and move him out. I'd pick him. Beggars can't be choosers. I think I would pick him. I would pick him, but if I wanted to get rid of him, I'd still get rid of him. Yeah, I'd use it to my advantage. I'd be like, you're playing, show me I'm wrong, and then in my head I'd be like, you're still going. You know, I would pick him. I would definitely pick him. You've got to look. If we lose to Villa on Sunday, after the week we've had, the Bruno interview, the Mainoo t-shirt, the leak about the team formation, if we lose to Villa as well, after the Bournemouth result as well, I think it's going to be a really bad week leading up to Christmas. So we've got to try and get a result out of that game. We can't be weakening a team that's weakened already. And also, as Kin says, if you pick him, you raise the value as well. Simon Mendoza, thanks for being a member for 61 months and getting your badge in. You're a legend, sir. 74% of you would sign Ruben Neves. I'm with you on that one. Fubar says, and thank you very much for your generous £10 super chat. He says, hi, Mark, and happy Christmas to all the crew. And I've watched this club since 75. I've seen the lows and the glory years. Until we get rid of, sorry, that completely skipped off there. Until we get rid of the Glazers, no more glory years. Oh, 100%, 100%. And look, you know what? I want to bring Bruno's interview in here. And look, you know, Rio Ferdinand was a very good player. I'd never deny that. I remember watching the World Cup in Japan, where he sort of broke through. He wasn't a United player then. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. He didn't get in team of the tournament. I think Sol Campbell did, and Rio should have got in it. And he was a very good player at Manchester United. But listening to him, I don't respect him as a pundit as much as I respected him as a player. And, you know, the interview, he seems to have got in bed with the Glazers. I'll just say it. You know, he was there in the States. He's there at Carrington. He's doing an interview with Bruno. It just seems to have got, you know, it just seems to be about how do I boost my profile? And it's all about, you know, he's almost an ambassador for the club. So, you know, for me, that's always a bad look. I listened to sections of the interview with Bruno. It was all very safe. It was all very PR. You know, where was the, you know, we're 6 months into the season. Where was the question about, you know, you're telling me Rio Ferdinand, who's played for England and Man United at a high level, isn't intelligent enough to know that Bruno's not a midfielder? Where's the question about the midfield? I don't care about, you know, but it is on your YouTube channel, mate. It's not Carrington MUTV. It's on the Rio Ferdinand YouTube channel. You can check it out. Why can't you ask him a question like that? I don't expect you to say, are you going to Saudi or anything like that? You know, you're not going to ask that. But I do expect you to go, you know, you're a number 10, brilliant stats. What do you think about playing in the midfield? What? It's your YouTube channel. Why can't you ask that question? Why, you know, it just felt a bit like a big PR piece to me. It was like, were the questions vetted before by the club? Because I'd love to know that question. That would have made it a really interesting interview. What do you think about playing in the midfield? Because, you know, as an ex-player myself, and I'm speaking in the third person as Rio here, I actually think you should be playing as a number 10. I don't think it suits you in the midfield. Are you just doing a job for a manager that's got no midfielders? I'd love to have known that question, you know? I'd love to have known it. I agree with you, Mark. I backed Mainoo, but now we all need to realise that players are not bigger than the club. It's just a shame with Mainoo. Yeah, but you know what, Trend? Let's just play a game for a moment. You know, it's disappointing that Mainoo's part of this T-shirt idiocy. But I've said this to you for many years. Like, I've been in and around sort of football for 10 years in a way that I wasn't before. You know, you speak to people, you interact with people, agents, players, you know, all sorts, journalists. And I've said it to you many times. The modern footballer from 16 years of age are in a bubble. They're not like you and I. They're not popping down the local Tesco to get a meal deal. You know, they're not off down the pub with their mates. They're in a bubble with people wiping their arse. You know, they don't... The environments they move in, they're just not used to it. And I think that the downside of that is that you sort of believe your own hype. You can become very self-centered, very self-serving. And I'm not making excuses, but that's when you start to do things that you think, oh, you know, I'm so popular, I'm going to do this. And I think the T-shirt thing is so idiotic that they probably thought it was a really good idea. They probably thought this is going to get the fans on side. But when you think about it, how stupid do you have to be to do that? To think that that T-shirt stunt is going to get all the United fans behind you and turn on the manager in the club. It's so naive, it's stupid, but that's the sort of bubble they live in, with everybody telling them how great they are. They just don't get good advice. And I'm not making excuses, but it's a running theme, certainly at our football club. There doesn't seem to be many players that actually are in touch with the real world, and they get bad advice. And I do feel sorry for them. I really, really do. I'm not saying that Mainoo should have messaged me and said, what do you think about the T-shirt thing? Can you do a poll on the United stand? But it would be nice if they did have people that they could speak to like that would go, look, mate, we want you in the team, but you can't do something like that. You know, leave it to the Scholes and the Butts to plead your case. You just keep your head down. Don't do anything that's going to damage your reputation in the United fan base, you know. Bruno and Neves is still a half crap midfield, says Mrs. Stone. Mojo's gifted 50 memberships. Sorry, Mrs. Stone, but 50 memberships by Mojo. He's back in and he's here for Christmas. If you've got a membership, make sure you give a W to that. Muad says, I'm at a point where I hope no Europe again and stadium plans fail and owners get forced out. Surely they can't keep surviving. It comes to a point. It's a horrible thing to say, Muad, but I'd probably vote for it. If somebody said to me, you miss out on Europe and the Glazers and Ineos fuck off, I'd vote for it. I think I probably would. I do. I think I probably would. Andre, I've done that one. Thank you very much. I'm just catching up and I'm just going to read that. Jack Davies says, JJ Gabriel's dad reacted to 2 Amorim youth comment, Harry Amas and Chido catching strays off Amorim. He's creating these issues like Mainoo's situation, and it's a shambles. I didn't know JJ Gabriel's dad had reacted to it, mate. But if he has, that's really worrying because there was a lot of comments last week about JJ Gabriel. But as I said, it worries me a little bit because he was very close to leaving in the summer, and he can leave in 2027 at 16. So we've averted losing him once, but he can walk. He can walk. Jody, thank you very much for your membership. Appreciate that. And you're a legend. Thanks for getting your badge in. Mutt says, did you hear FIFA want a new under-15 tournament? More scandalous rubbish from FIFA. Well, I don't care. This is United stand. Phil Flanagan says, we can't keep selling players for every little infraction, especially youth. Discipline them, teach them and move on. Professionalism is an attribute learned over time. Exactly. Exactly. That's why I would pick Mainoo on Sunday. There is an education piece here. He's only 20 years of age. I would hope that Mainoo, it filters back to him how pissed off the fan base are for that. And he learns. He's 20. I mean, at 20... God, if some of you aren't 20 yet, you won't know. If some of you have been 20, imagine what you were like at 20. You know, he's behaved ridiculously well at the football club for the last 2 years. We've never had any problems with him. It's one thing. I agree with you, Phil. I think it's not about kicking him out the club. It's about educating him. And look, you know, if I'm being completely honest, what about this? Bruno Fernandes has done an interview this week saying that the club shit on him, that he works harder than anybody else, you know, and Mainoo's brother had a T-shirt on. I mean, we're not bothered about Bruno because he's the captain and he's our best player, but he still behaved badly, you know. We're not kicking Bruno out the club for the interview either, are we? So I agree with you. Some of these players don't know where the line is, says Emily. But then who is in the people around them or in that dressing room is able to teach them? Bruno, Shaw, Maguire. Any other way, our club fails young players. I mean, Luke Shaw was doing a fucking TikTok slagging off people who are on benefits last New Year's Eve. So they're not role models at all. It's a long time since we've had role models at Man United. Ronaldo was the last one. Jacob says, I don't think Mainoo would have done it if he had leadership at the club, guiding young players in tough times. It just comes down to no leadership again. Look, you know, one thing I would say about our youth, and I'm not saying it's the same now, Jacob, but I remember when Sancho was here, and he was a waste of time. he shit it up the wall. He was a waste of time. He didn't turn up for training sometimes, apparently, on time. He was shitting the team. Clearly didn't respect what Man United was about. But the youth players loved him. Youth players loved Jadon Sancho. They absolutely looked up to him and they worshipped him. There's your role model. Sancho used to turn up and watch the youth team and they bloody loved him. They loved him. They idolised him. I know it for a fact. And that's your role model. And you think, and that's not bullshit, is it? It's true. Who's more ready to start January? Neves playing in Saudi or Gallagher in La Liga in the Champions League? January transfers windows don't get a pre-season, says Carl. Exactly. I think I like Conor Gallagher. I like Conor Gallagher. They must have been playing FIFA with him on PlayStation, says Lawrence. Love it. Love it. Okay, so look, from this Bruno Fernandes interview, I did just want to read this. This was from his interview with Rio. And he basically said, look, I think my loyalty has been shown in the toughest periods I had at the club. I could have left 2 times. The club said, no, we need you. And I said, okay, you gave me something. I will give you something. I'm sort of stunned here. I'm absolutely stunned, right? I don't know what Bruno is doing. He's done an interview that came out at the start of the week where he said, I felt underappreciated. The club didn't have the balls to sell me, blah, blah, blah. He did an interview in October saying the club wanted him to stay. And now he's just done an interview with Rio this week saying the club wanted him to stay. I mean, is he just thick or forgetful? I mean, what is he talking about? Like, the interview he did at the start of the week said the club didn't have the balls to get rid of me and I felt they wanted to get rid of me. And they've just done another interview saying the club made me stay a couple of times. I'm getting mixed messages. But there's another bit and I can't fucking find it. Here it is. Obviously, when I speak about going and winning trophies, I stayed here because I think I can still win trophies here. I wouldn't have stayed if the club hadn't told me our aim is to get to the highest we can be, to get back to winning trophies, get back to be the club we were before. Because if that was not the aim, then yes, I wouldn't have stayed here. But because I know the aim of the club is still to get back to where they want to be and where I want the club to be, and that's why I came to the club in the first place. So if I can help to get back there, that's all I want to do. So Bruno basically saying that, you know, he's been promised that United are going to get back to winning trophies, and that's why he stayed at the club. I mean, I don't want to, you know, sort of give him a bit of a wake-up call, but you've already won the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup very, very recently. If you think you're winning the Champions League or the Premier League at Manchester United, you might want to check your passport, mate, because we're not winning the Premier League or the Champions League any time in the next few years, and you're going to be 32 very soon. So I'm not saying I call bullshit, but he's already won the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. If he thinks he's winning the Premier League or the Champions League playing as a midfielder, he's very, 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 very naive. So, look, I like it. It was a very positive PR interview, whatever you want to call it. But there wasn't anything difficult in there. He didn't have to answer anything difficult in there. And, you know, we're not winning the Premier League with him in his early 30s in the midfield. It's just not going to happen. So he needs to go back to being a number 10, and we need to win a Premier League in the next 2 or 3 years, which, again, is very, very unlikely. So, look, to me, it's just talk. And what I would say to Bruno is, fair play for you for listening to these clowns in charge that are telling you they're going to take us back to winning the Premier League and the Champions League, because we've been listening to it for 13 years and we've never been bloody anywhere near it. They haven't got a clue what they're doing. So I think he'll be gone in the summer. Unless we qualify for the Champions League, I think he'll be gone, because I think he'll go, you're liars, you're not winning anything, I want to go. I think if we get in the Champions League, he will stay. But I think if we don't, he will go. There we go. I mean, maybe the plan is to progress and use him as a centre-back. Club success is the only way to break player power, says Carlo Montana. Muntasar says it's funny that Ineos model is heavy on getting young players, but they get a manager who doesn't seem to rate the youth that much. I think that's a bit unfair. You know, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think that Amorim has used youth at Sporting. It would be a very new turn of events to say that he doesn't use youth, because he does in his past career. He probably just doesn't rate this youth very much. I don't think he rates Obi. I don't think he rates Amas. And I don't think he rates Mainoo. And we can be offended by that. But he can only be true to himself. He shouldn't be forced to pick players that he doesn't rate. And I don't think he rates them. And I think people, you know, I like Amorim. I'm not convinced he's the right guy. I think he's got to get midfielders and convince me. And, you know, I think if he gets the right midfielders, he might. But he doesn't need to pick players I rate if he doesn't rate them. And I don't think he should be labelled as a manager that doesn't use youth because he doesn't use the youth you want him to use. I don't think he rates Amas, Obi and Mainoo. I don't think he rates them, so I don't think he uses them. I think if he had 3 young players that he rated, he would use them. Mark, you still continue to help me in some of my bad days with the content and this amazing community, says the Nooch. Thank you, mate. Well, you all help me very much as well, so thanks very much for tuning in. Enjoying having a drink with you tonight, actually. I don't normally get to have one. Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. Or if it's not Merry Christmas, just Happy Thursday. I haven't totally calmed down, but I'll talk about it in the after show. I mean, I'll get angry again in a minute. Mark Holder says, play Ahmad off the left. He's left-footed. Amorim likes inverted players. That's why he's using Delo, isn't it? If Forest accepted 40 million plus Mainoo for Anderson, would you do it, says Chip. Right here, right now, would I do it? Yes. It might be a mistake, and I'd be a bit reluctant, but right here, right now, yeah, of course I would. Of course I would. Fans across social media have backed Mainoo. Legends like Scholes backed him. Moreover, the recognition he got from the fans at Old Trafford is testament in itself that everyone thinks of you very highly. Why bother with the T-shirt? And that's why I feel a bit let down, Mojo, because, you know, I've backed him. Many of you have backed him. There's some people in this chat who've been calling him shit and slow for months. We have backed Mainoo. Certain legends have backed Mainoo. Why do the T-shirt? You didn't need to do it. It just, I think Roy Keane was right. It's idiocy. Why do it? Who's it? You know, sometimes in life you see a celebrity do something and you go, "Who advised you on that?" And I think it's just one of those. Like, it's gone through at least 4 brains to do that, and they've still done it, and that's what surprises me. It's like, you know, there's a few people who've gone, I think this is a great idea. Mrs. Stone says, I think Bruno's interview and Mainoo's stunt are equally as bad. Both need the same treatment. Bruno even more. He's not a bloody kid. Mate, I'll tell you what. Man United's stance on Bruno is carpet, brush, sweep under the carpet. They are not bothered by it. They don't want to make an issue of it. They don't want to upset Bruno. They don't want to upset Amorim. Sweep it under the carpet. But as I said, if you want a proper analysis of it, some of the stuff he said is bang out of order. It's contradictory and it's damaging to the club. And if it was Paul Pogba, it would have been dealt with very, very differently. And if it was Marcus Rashford, it would have been dealt with very, very differently. And if it was Garnacho, it would have been dealt with very, very differently. And to be fair, if it was Mainoo, it would have been dealt very, very differently. But because he's our best player, he's our captain, and he's Amorim's first name on the sheet, they have to sweep it under the carpet because they can't reprimand a player with that much opinion. Mrs. Old Bean says, Mark, stand by your views rather than changing your opinion due to others' perspective. I mean, I've been doing this for a decade. I'm ridiculously stubborn in this and my personal life. But I also got taught at a very young age that you don't flog a dead horse. Because if you're wrong, don't double down on it. And you know what? There's been a few times, and it's not about changing my opinions because other people do it. I would never do that. I don't believe in that. But sometimes you take a stance based on evidence and then the evidence changes. And I think it's a poor excuse of a human being who stands behind something when the evidence has changed. You know, at the end of the day, if you're watching, if a mate of yours says they haven't done something and you back them and then you have all the evidence that they did do it, if you choose to back them, that's up to you because they're a mate. That's absolutely fine, but they did it. You can't pretend that they didn't. And also, I actually think at my stage of life, I respect people more who, when they're wrong, they say they're wrong. I'm at that point in my life where I think those people are more learned, more trustworthy, and more interesting because nobody is perfect. And I think, we're not always in possession of all of the facts. So we back something because we believe in it. And then we find out that we shouldn't have believed in it. Well, I'm not going to back it. I see the future behaving the same way because it comes from a place of disrespect, and the Glazers have given plenty of reason to disrespect the club. Free United, says the Fergie way. And I've said this before as well. I can't stand what the Glazers have done to this great football club. If you're a player of Manchester United, do you think they're so naive and stupid not to realise that we can't stand the owners? Do you think they respect the owners? I don't think they do. Anyway, I think Amorim is harsh on the youth because of the recent poor attitudes for the past 10 years, like Cobby, Garner and Rashford, says David. Mark, you need to reread your comment because it doesn't make any sense. Papa, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. And Sid says, how mercenary are these players? Where's the accountability that you have not been good enough to win anything major? I'm sick of it. Sorry, I burped there. Sorry. I'm sick of it, says Sid. And thank you very much for that. Now, I think there is a couple of other things I wanted to touch on, but... just very, very quickly. I mean, I'll probably bring some of this into the morning show tomorrow because there are a few things that I'm not going to get chance to talk about. But this was one thing that I forgot to bring into the morning show. Man City source talking to the Mail about Man United. Manchester United remain our biggest rivals in terms of fan base, but when it comes to meetings with sponsors and major commercial partners, United aren't the main concern anymore, Liverpool are. That's the impact of the Glazers. When City were taken over, we studied United closely and copied a lot of what they did. That's no longer the case. Been saying this for fucking years. When Man City started out, they did look at Man United and went, we need to copy a lot of those things. People aren't looking at us anymore. They're not. And, this needs to be more in our fan base. We are not a well-run football club and we are not at the top table anymore. In relation to fan base, we are, but in relation to how the club is run, we're a fucking circus. I've said this to you for years. I know agents, I know journalists, and they've said to me for many years, when Man United get into a transfer, it's almost like you can hear the clobbing of the big clown boots coming down the road. We are not respected. We are seen as a joke, and that's why we've been rinsed so many times. We used to be the A-star of how to run a Premier League football club. We are nowhere near that anymore. Nowhere near it. We are a laughing stock, and we are not at the top table anymore. We're not. Jack says, what's the reaction if he drops Cobby and picks Bruno? I don't think he should drop either of them, Jack. With no Casemiro, would you rather play Agartha? I mean, I don't think he should drop either of them, but I think, you know what? I've said it a few times on the show. We've had so much to deal with this week that's been nothing to do with how did we draw 4-4 to Bournemouth. Now, I don't know whether that helps Amorim or hinders him, but there's not been a lot of conversation about how we drew with Bournemouth, how we've taken 2 points from 9 at home against 3 teams we should be beating. Because there's been so much bloody other noise again, which is typical with United. And what makes me laugh is that the fans get a lot of the blame for being negative or, whatever. But all this we're talking about is because of players. Who leaked that we were going to go to a back four? A player. Who did the interview with Bruno? Bruno. Who was involved in the T-shirt? Mainoo. So it's nothing to do with us. There's always external noise created by our own fucking players. But I do think, and I've said it 2 times or 3 times already, if we lose to Villa on Sunday, I don't think that's a good game to lose. I really don't. I think after the week we've had, including the Bournemouth result, I think it will be a very bad Monday if we lose to Villa on Sunday. So I would not be dropping Mainoo or Bruno or making any big statements for that game because we just need to try and get a result. Shantan says, I think Bruno is basically saying if you do not buy great players and go for trophies, you will be losing me soon. He is pushing owners by the talk. Which is fair, mate. But you know what? Would you rather buy great players for Bruno to pick Bruno in the midfield, or Bruno disappears and you buy players when he's gone? There's no point in buying good players and keeping Bruno in the midfield. You know what? And I almost feel like Amorim's turning it into something where I've seen many managers do this. I'll prove them wrong. Please do not make Bruno in the midfield the thing that you're going to prove us wrong on, because what you will lose. Drink some whiskey, man. Anything else is for women. This is Hardy. You're sexist. Hi, Mark. Do you think that, this is from Harry Sinclair, do you think that how tight the league is means that fans overreact more to drop points? Because personally, I think it's as simple as not being ready to take advantage of gifts being given by other clubs. I think it's a crap Premier League season, mate. I think it's a crap Premier League season. I can't believe. I mean, look, across this season already, Fulham lost to Arsenal, drew to Fulham, lost to Brentford, lost to Man City, drew with Forest, drew with Spurs, lost to Everton, drew with West Ham, drew with Bournemouth. I mean, we've had some shit results in the first 16 games, and yet we're touching top 4. I don't understand it. I personally think a lot of I don't even know where the wins have come from. We've had so many shite results this season. I mean, Forest was shit. Spurs, we should have lost. Brentford wiped their arse with us. Man City wiped their arse with us. Fulham could have beat us. Everton did beat us. West Ham drew with us at Old Trafford and Bournemouth. I mean, I don't even know how we're in a top 4 race after all those results. So you might be onto something. Maybe it is the fact that there's a frequency of results, but we're still in touching distance with top 4. Yeah, I don't know. It does feel like a weird season. It does feel like a weird season, definitely. There's so much more I want to talk about, but we're sort of getting to the end of the show, and I do need a piss. But let me just have a quick look as well. I just want to catch up on some of yours as well. I've read that this morning. I'll talk about that tomorrow. Yeah, I've done that one as well. Semenyo, Neves. There we go. This was an interesting quote. Pete Hall, who is a journalist for iPaper, said that those who know Ruben Amorim do not believe he has any predetermined opposition to giving young players chances. In fact, quite the opposite. Like with United, the DNA of sporting is to give youth a chance. I don't know what people in Manchester are worried about with Ruben Amorim. If the quality is there, he will use it. If players realise that every day in training, it's a chance to show they're good enough, they will get in. I suppose the only kick side to that is that Ruben Amorim did say that Kobbie Mainoo was playing really well, and then he didn't use him. So I think that's it. Okay, right. After show, very, very quickly. The reason I was late to the show tonight was because I got sent. I mean, I'm having a, it's Christmas in a week's time. It's Christmas Day. I've just been down the pub for a couple of pints. It's it's Friday tomorrow. Football at the weekend. I'm in a good mood. I get a WhatsApp from people I used to go to school with. Have you seen this? Laugh emoji face. And it's an article in the I think it's the Nottingham paper. Top 13 celebrities from Nottingham. And I'm like, you know what? I don't expect to, whatever. I was born in Nottingham, but I haven't lived there for a long time. But I was born in Nottingham. Would I be in there? No, I wouldn't expect to be in there at all. But oh my God. When you look at the list, I was just like, Christmas is cancelled. So you got Vicky McClure, a BAFTA-winning actress from Line of Duty. Okay, whatever. Been doing United Stand for 10 years. Millions of views, whatever. Jane Torval and Christopher Dean. They won a fucking gold in 1984 for skating. Well done. Sir Paul Smith, fashion designer. Okay, fair enough. Carl Frock, the Cobra, a 4-time super middleweight world champion. I ain't got a problem with any of these. Absolutely fine. Samantha Morton, multiple Oscar nominations for her roles in films. I actually do know who she is. Stuart Broad, highly successful, recognisable former English Test cricketer who played for Nottinghamshire. Mary Earps. No comment. Jake Bugg, a popular singer-songwriter from Clifton, known for a self-titled debut album which reached #1 on the UK charts. Never heard of him. Lenny James, actor and writer. I do know who he is. Actually, he was in The Walking Dead. Matthew Horn from Gavin and Stacey. Bella Ramsey, a young actor who rose to international fame for Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones and The Last of Us. William Booth, founder and first general of the Salvation Army. And Alan Stillito, celebrated author in the Angry Young Men literary movement, known for his novel Saturday Night and Sunday Morning, which depicts working class life in Nottingham. I'm sorry. They're having a fucking laugh. They're having a laugh. They're having a bloody laugh. I'm sorry. I think it's a joke. I think it's an absolute joke. Where's Robin Hood and where's me? You know? Where's me? You know? Absolute joke. Absolute joke. Not happy about it. Anyway, tongue-in-cheek a little bit. Tongue-in-cheek. I'm still waiting for my bloody primary school, not primary school, they can do one. My secondary school to build a statue as well. When's that going to happen? Anyway, I was 14th. I guarantee I wouldn't even be in the top 30. I guarantee I wouldn't. I didn't actually know, Plant Man, that the girl from Last of Us was from Nottingham. I think they've miscast her in that. Didn't mind her in Game of Thrones, but I stopped watching The Last of Us. I found it massively irritating, and the game's very good, but I found it very, very irritating. But nothing will ever be more irritating than Kate Winslet. Not only did the silly bitch hog the door in the Titanic, which is not her fault, that's the actress, but I watched The Holiday again at the weekend, and I've never seen such... you just don't watch The Holiday with your family over Christmas. And if you do watch it, think of what I'm about to say when she goes to the house in LA and basically comes in her pants every time she walks into a room and sees a fucking teaspoon or a bedroom or anything like that. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. Fantastic show tonight. Really, really enjoyed it. You got me all day tomorrow because everybody's fucking off for Christmas. It's great, isn't it? This is what always happens when you run your own business. Everybody books time off and you end up working. So tomorrow I'm on the 10 a.m. I'm also doing Amorim's press conference and I'm doing the 8 o'clock. So all of me tomorrow, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But it is Christmas, so I don't really care, to be honest with you. Thanks everyone for watching. Stay safe, take care, and I will speak to you on the next one. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.